everybody, welcome to my art class. I'm Miss Cindy and I'm so excited for you to be joining me today. In this session, we are going to be drawing an optical illusion. This is my example. Have a look here. So we're going to need something to draw on. I'm going to be using an 8x11 size blank paper. Make sure you also use a blank paper. It doesn't have to be the exact size. Make sure you have a pencil with an eraser, a black Expo marker, and your favorite colors using colored pencils. Once you get those supplies, we're ready to start. Okay, so we've got our piece of paper. I'm using my easel here, but you can be using a table to have your paper on. Don't draw with your paper in the portrait view. You want to turn it sideways so it's in landscape, meaning the longer side is on the top. Grab your pencil and we're going to start at the top corner. So pick a corner and you're going to draw a squiggly line and it ends at the bottom corner, the opposite corner from where you started. So there's my squiggly line. Okay, so now that we have our squiggly line, we're going to make about 4 or 5 dots throughout on the line, on the squiggly line. Starting at the top corner, make one, and then space it out about 2 inches apart so that the dots are spread out throughout the page. Okay, so for me, I ended up doing 5 little dots on my paper, starting at the top corner, then about 2 inches away from that dot, and then another one, and then one more all the way at the bottom. So 5 dots for me, depending on the size of your squiggly line. If you have a shorter squiggly line, you're only gonna have 4 dots. If you have a longer one like mine, you're gonna have 5 dots. Let's start at the first 2 dots. We're gonna make a curved line connecting them, okay? So mine didn't get that curved, but the next one's gonna be very curved. And you can decide how big you want the curves, the space between the curves to be. We're going to continue connecting from one dot to the first dot. And you want to curve it so that it's almost like a balloon shape. Here's a tip. The bigger the spaces between each line, the easier it's going to be. And we want to try to take it all the way up to the edge of the paper. Once you run out of room, and this is why I have an eraser. So you want to make sure that there's lots of space between each of the curved lines. Try to take it all the way up to the edge of the paper. It doesn't have to close the background. You can leave a little bit of the background. Now we're going to do that with the next 2 dots. So from the second dot to the third dot, try not to overlap on the lines you just drew. You're going to start your curved lines again. All right, let me show you closer. I think I can do one more curved line. And you can see at the top of the paper, it ran off the paper a little bit. All right, we're going to repeat that all the way until we finish with all 4 dots. So now I have a third section where I'm starting with the 3rd dot and the 4th dot, and I'm making my curved lines. Now you want to make sure that you have space. You can decide how big you want the curves to be. Remember not to overlap. So you don't want to cross into another curve. Try to retrace in between. You see the space where the curves are coming from? Try to retrace there instead of overlapping and drawing over a curve, okay? I got one more place to do curves on this side. So we're gonna finish up with the last 2. So the 4th dot and the 5th dot, I'm gonna make curves all the way as much as I can up the paper. I'm gonna stop about there. All right, now that we did the top portion of the squiggly line, I'm gonna flip my paper and do the exact same thing that I did with the top to the bottom. Now the bottom is the top. So these 2 dots are gonna be where I'm gonna start my curved lines. So here I'm gonna start and curve it. Oops, it got a little bit messy there. Erase that. So make sure this is one of the reasons why I like to use pencil first. See how this one, it kind of finished off the paper? That's fine too. And same thing with dots 2 and dot 3. You don't have to go as fast as I went. You can take your time to decide how you want the curved lines to be. And now dot 3 and dot 4. This is dot 3, this is dot 4. We're gonna make curved lines all the way. And you can see how the curved lines change. They have to, because it depends on how big they can be, depending on the space that the other curves leaves it. So here we go. And I have to retrace through the space between the curves that I finished. If this is your first time doing this type of drawing, you know, practice makes better. You can do this again another time and see how it changes from the first time you did it. All right, so this last curved space, I have to again go off the paper, and that's fine. And then I have one more place to do curved lines right here. So this is already curved because it's the end of my squiggly line. You see this first curve, that was the end of my squiggly line. So it's a perfect, you know, I can just follow suit and follow the shape of that curve. I don't have a lot of space here, so I only have space to do 4 curves. All right, so there is my initial shape. And depending on how I color it, it can maybe look like pumpkins, it could look like balloons. I'm going to now trace everything with my Expo marker. So you do not have to trace the dots with the Expo marker. In fact, you can erase them if you want. I like to keep them because I like to see where my first point of contact was. But if you don't want the big 4 or 5 circles that we initially made, you can go ahead and erase them. Now take your Expo marker and go over everything. Do this slowly. Try your best to follow the lines that you've already made. And you're gonna, what we wanna do is with the black expo marker, it just makes the shape of our sketch pop, and it looks a little bit more professional. So take it nice and slow. The more you do this, the less shaky the tracing will become. And instead of having shaky lines, you'll have a smoother line. It's a little bit harder when your picture is up on an easel. So if you're on a table, that's great. You have more control. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so let's continue retracing all of the lines that we drew. If it's okay, if you go out of the line a little bit, you can always erase the pencil part. Try to go back to those 2 dots that were on the squiggly line. If you don't go back to where the dots were, you're going to have a different shape than the illusion that you want. I'm just going to show you on another side of the paper what happens when you don't go back with your loops to the original dots. So go ahead and continue to retrace everything with your expo marker. Okay, so we have the dots, right? If you don't go back to the dots, the 2 dots, each time you make the curves. So let's say you might, a lot of times people end up going like this. You see how they just started the curves on top of the other curves? And that's a different look than what we're going for right now. You can definitely see how it looks when you do that compared to when you go back each time to the 2 points that we drew on the squiggly line. I hope that makes sense. Because when you go back to the 2 points, it affects the shape and the size of your curves, of your curved lines. You can't see this right now, but I'm not hitting the pencil tracings very well. But it's okay. Once we start to color it, or if I wanted to, I could erase all of these pencil tracings. Let me show you. They're very subtle, but once we start to color it, it's not gonna be very noticeable at all. Try to make the lines as curved as you can. And so this is also really good practice for making circular lines. Circular lines are really hard to do. If you've ever tried to make a perfect circle freehand without any other aid, you know that it's very difficult to draw the perfect circle freehand. Okay, I'm done tracing my drawing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some colors that I want. So from my sample, you'll notice that I alternate colors on between each curved space. So I have on this one you can see a little bit better, the colors, like a blue color and a red color, and alternating. Okay. You can have more colors than just 2 colors. It's easier to keep track of if you just use 2 for now. So if you want to do what I did here is on one side, I actually used, I did some different things here, but we're going to keep it simple for this one. I'm just going to use, I'm going to split the curves in half, and for these first 2 set of curves, I'm going to use a red color, orange color, and a red color. Oops, stop that, get that. Okay, so you're gonna start and you're gonna just color it completely. I'm gonna start with my first space, my first little oval shape here. And just like how we drew the curved lines, start with the top part. Try to fill up the space as much as you can, no white space. Enjoy and relax when you color. Okay, it should be relaxing. Right, so I did that very quickly. There's still some white space. I can go back and fill it in a little bit more. You can press down as hard as you want to get a really dark color from your drawing, or you can just very lightly color and you have a different shading when you do very light pressing with your pencil. Once you're satisfied with that, switch to another color. So now I'm going to switch to this red color. It's like a red brown. So I'm not liking how the red brown kind of looks orangey. I'm going to switch right now to a darker color. There's not enough contrast for me in this. Let me see if this one's a little bit darker. I don't think I'm going to use brown. I think I'm going to switch colors altogether to just like maybe even a green. And I don't care that I already used this kind of orangey brown color here, because it's just going to add more depth and more shadings. Depth, D-E-P-T-H. And I like that. So the more shadings you can have, the more optical illusion feeling you have. That's one of the things besides shape. Besides shape, another thing that creates optical illusion is shadings, giving something like a 3-dimensional quality. And you get that by how you draw the lines and how you shade. All right, so we're going to keep alternating from the first color to the second color. So now I'm on my third curved panel here. We're going to keep alternating. You're going to alternate When you alternate your colors, don't start going to the second set of balloons until you finish this first circle. Okay, so I skipped ahead and finished this top part of the first circle. I'm calling these circles, even though they're not circles. The circular space, the circular part. Okay, so we have 4, let's call them circles. 1, 2, 3, 4 circles, okay? So once you finish with the top part of your first circle, you can finish the bottom part of that circle. So don't go on to the next circle until you finish that first circle. So we're alternating colors. We don't want the same color right next to each other. And if you're very ambitious, you can add a 3rd color or even a 4th color. But I think just 2 colors right now. And then once you have enough practice doing this, you can start adding different colors and seeing what else you can do with this type of optical illusion idea. This could be the main subject of any of your drawings, or it can be used in backgrounds. I really love the shape of this optical illusion. And I'm gonna move on, I'm ready to move on to my second circle right here. I'm gonna pick 2 other colors. I'm not really, right now, I'm doing this. You can consider the colors you've already picked, or you can just be experimental and pick 2 random different colors. I'm kind of doing the random thing. I'm going to do a yellow and a blue. Okay, I'm going to start with the blue. I'm going to try to find my squiggly line, the part that was the original, and start there. Okay. If you don't remember where you started, it's okay. Just go for like a middle section of the circle, because the squiggly line was directly in the middle when we first started. If you do this again and you want to make your squiggly line off to the side, you can do that. It'll change the shape completely. It'll change the shape of the curves that you make. I may or may not like how it comes out with these 2 other colors. It may be too jumbled for me. But that's okay, because I can always do it again. You learn from what you like and what you don't like if you practice it, if you practice enough. I still want to have no white space. So even if you, in other art projects, even if you want white in the background, to me, it looks more professional and more advanced if you still color the white space with a color. So color it with white. Get a white crayon or white paint or whatever medium you're using, and color the white space. Because you can tell if the background is white from coloring or white from being left alone. That's just my preference, in my opinion. A lot of people have that opinion, actually, that you should not have any white space. Even if you're using the color white, just color it. Okay, last panel. And I actually am not liking the yellow and blue here as much. Let me see if I can, for the bottom part of this circle, switch to my first two colors, okay? So I'm gonna go back to my first two colors, which was an orange and green. And because this part of my circle was orange, and I don't want two colors right next to each other, I'm gonna use the green right here because it's more adjacent to the orange. So instead of starting with orange, I started with green to finish off the bottom half of the second circle. All right, and alternate. Remember, you can do different shadings, make one part darker, or if it's your style, you can make the whole thing very, very dark and filled. Sometimes you can achieve that by going over it again a few times. So here, for this orange panel, it's a lot darker than this one. I went over it a few more times to get a different shading. I'm going to try that with the green. Still alternating here. Stay in between the lines of the expo marker. Alternate. A lot of this is trial and error in art. There are no mistakes in art, they say. So I don't have a definition of perfect when it comes to art. In fact, that shouldn't even be in your vocabulary when you are trying to create something new in art. It can be very discouraging. Ideally, now that I'm finishing up with the circle, I would have preferred if this was a different color than if this was not orange, because the top circle ended with orange here. But I think I had more curves on the second circle. So it's okay. I could add another curved line and finish it off with a green curved space. But I'm not going to do that because I'm happy with the shape of it right now. Okay. Now I'm going to use two more totally different colors for my third circle. You don't have to do that. You can stick with what you've got, or you can experiment the way I'm doing. And I'm feeling a lot more experimental, so I'm going to use this brown color. Let's just start with the brown color. I'm going to try to find my squiggly line here and start there. I have very neutral colors for my colored pencils. You can even use crayon. Crayon might be fun to use, and you can have a variety of colors there. You can mix colors. For the brown, I think I'm going to use a brighter color to complement it. Here's a red color. I'm going to add that. This is going to be my alternating color for this circle. And alternate back to brown. And red. Back to the brown. Make sure that if you're using colored pencils instead of crayons, make sure that you have a good pencil sharpener so that you feel free to color as deeply as you like. If I wanted to, I could add a third color. I think I will add a third color here. So my optical illusion drawing in this example is very, very experimental. I'm just deciding as I go. You can choose to set up everything and have it all planned. I'm going to use a gray color. Okay, so I'm adding a third color here. It's kind of like a gray blue. You can see the difference between this one and the example that I showed in the beginning. This is a lot more planned. This is a lot more experimental. Okay, I'm gonna go back to brown. Oh no, I'm gonna switch to red here. So when you have a random different color, that's called spot coloring. So I have a spot color of the gray blue. Okay, and I'm gonna start over here on the bottom part of my third circle, alternating. So I have to use this red color because I started with brown. Next, I'm gonna do brown. And on the bottom one, I'm not gonna spot color with the gray. I'm just gonna add it in. Now gray. Back to red. Oh, it actually is spot colored again because in my pattern, the next color is brown and I only have one more panel, so I don't need the gray again. Okay, I have the last circle to do, and I'm gonna go continue with this brown, red, and gray pattern that I already have for my my third circle. So the last circle is gonna be very similar to the third circle, except I'm gonna, on the bottom half, I'm gonna add this blue and yellow again. Even though I was randomly picking colors, I somehow ended up with a very precise pattern. It's funny how that works out. Even though I didn't plan on it, I planned on being random. Okay, back to brown. Instead of starting with red, I started with brown again. Brown, red, and then the gray color. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the blue and yellow color. I'm gonna do the blue first, alternate with yellow for the second to last panel. I'm calling these curved spaces panels. All right, and then finish off with blue. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to fill up all the white space. I don't want to leave it without doing a background. So for the background, you can do more patterns, but because our main focus in the drawing is full of patterns already, I'm just going to use one solid color to fill up the background. I'm going to use a dark color. So you can color it as dark as you like. And for this drawing, I'm not going to color as deeply as I normally would, like if I was using acrylic paint. It would be very, very solid. I'm going to give it like a very light feeling as I'm coloring. Same thing on the bottom. Just try to fill up as much of the white space as possible. And for my background, I'm just using an up and down stroke with my pencils. You can trace around the expo marker if you'd like, or you can just keep doing the up and down strokes. And if it overlaps a little bit, that's fine. It gives it some dimension. And there we go. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my regular pencil and I'm just gonna add some more shading in between each circle with my pencil. I'm not really trying to color any shape here. I'm just following the outline in between each circle and just doing an up and down stroke, following the line that separates each circle. All right. And I'm done. And I can add more shading if I want. So on some of these colors that, the first circle, I had that mistake where I didn't like that color and I colored over it. I could take that same type of brown color and go on all the green panels and just do an up and down stroke to give it a more three-dimensional shape. When you do shadings on a shape, it creates a three-dimensional look. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just to tie it in with that first green panel where I decided I didn't want it to be, it actually wasn't brown, it was an orange color, but I'm going to use brown because it already starts to, because I colored it over with green, it started to look brown. So I'm just going to continue with that on all the green ones. That's just a decision that I just now made. All right, so that's all the green. I like the look of, I didn't color all the way the length of the circular shape, of the curved shape. I just went on top here and stopped about midpoint. And for the top circle, instead of the top part, I focus on the bottom part of the green curved space. I like this kind of shading on my green, so I'm going to do that with my blues too. Same idea, I'm going to go on the blues and I'm going to add this brown shading here. You don't have to do this if you want to, take a picture of your drawing and message me and show me what it looks like. I'd love to see what you've done. I'm going to do that with the blue here too. Actually, see right here, you can see how it gives it a semi three-dimensional look. Shading here. All right, I'm gonna do this with the red here. I'm liking this so much with the shading. So now I'm taking that same brown and I'm going it across all the reds. All right, so now I'm done with this drawing. You can see how it differed from my first example. Yours probably looks very different as well. I'd love to see how yours turned out. Take a picture and send me a message. Thank you so much for joining me today.